Hello and welcome, beautiful ones. I am Jocelyn Corvus of Gothic Genie Insights, and it is a pleasure to be chatting with you today. Lots to cover here, so let's begin. I'm going to try not to tangent too much, but when it comes to imposter syndrome, as well as pretty much anything that has a label to it, I've had to have my own experience with it before I could understand it. And I think that kind of helped me so that I'm not molding things into one box where I'm able to have my own experience and not feel it has to be defined, or not feel the pressure of, I haven't hit this milestone yet, so what does that mean? Is it really imposter syndrome? Is it not? I don't know. And that's pretty much the same with my spiritual journey, because with my spiritual journey, there were things that I was experiencing that I had no idea there were names for till I started kind of getting out more in the local pagan community, and I started meeting people that could shine some light on things for me and let me know what things were and that there were names for these things. But I had to have my own journey because one example, when I was doing meditations, I snapped into it so hardcore that for like a week it was intense. And this happens to me sometimes when I get really into it, because it just comes so natural now. Not all the time, but when it does, it comes so naturally that it's kind of intense. So anyway, I'm feeling all this stuff going on. I'm feeling the buzzing all over. I'm feeling the ringing in my ears. It was driving me crazy because it was so intense, and I had no idea what was going on. I thought something was really wrong. And when I looked up meditation and, if this could be a side effect, yeah, it was. But they also said, see a doctor, make sure it's nothing serious. And I did. And so through that, I was able to kind of understand more about my own journey rather than reading about it and saying, well, why aren't you experiencing the buzzing and the ringing, putting that pressure on myself. So we're going to talk about imposter syndrome in the way that I have come to understand it from my journey and experience. And there are two aspects to it that I have really kind of delved into. One is the personal aspect, and one is the professional. So we're going to start with the personal aspect, which is, we can be a variety of things at one time. We don't have to fit one mold or one image that somebody sees of us, because think of 3 of your closest friends. What side of you do they get? One may be really into music, one may be really into movies, and the other one may be really, if we're being honest, maybe one of them's into gossiping, and if that's the case, those are not the only thing that we are. Those are just aspects of who we are and what those friends bring out in us. Now I'm going to focus on gossip for a minute here. If we find that that's what a friendship is based on, we do want to consider that at some point they may end up gossiping about us. So, we might want to put up those boundaries and shift the friendship into a different direction, or if we have to, kind of break away. But we also have those friends that we can vent to, that are there for us when we need it. And it's just a matter of everything that we are. Somebody different with different energy is going to bring out those aspects. So if I'm standing in the middle of my group of friends, each one has something that they bring out in me. Whether it's a passion or a commonality or values and morals and beliefs and those kind of things. So it's not that we have to be one thing, but we're this culmination of many. And so just because we are acting in one certain way doesn't mean that that's who we are. And a lot of times we get caught up in, if we're angry, if we're mad, if we show any sign of negativity, if we misstep in some way, if we show that we're human and make mistakes, that we start to hold that as who we are. And that's not true. And we start to second guess everything everybody says about us that's positive. Well, I'm not that person. I'm not as good as people think I am. They have the wrong idea of me. And really, it is a lot to live up to. when people think you're one way, because everybody always thinks that I'm like this positive, happy, smiling person all the time. Everybody always asks me that. And it's hard because I'm not always that way, especially considering the current climate of the world, you know, seeing a lack of compassion. And I don't understand that. And that kind of brings out my anger, honestly, which I know that's like, you know, that doesn't sound right, that, you know, lack of compassion would make somebody angry, but it does. And so, you know, there's this idea that you have to be one way all the time. And looking at the parallel of water, water is, it can take many forms, but it's always water. It's always the same. It's just putting it in different conditions, you know. Putting it in the freezer, it's going to turn to ice. There are certain things that are going to make us cold or make us feel numb and frigid. You know, people talk about that as a personality type. Sometimes we might become frigid when we've had too much. And, you know, putting it on the stovetop, you know, on, you know, having it boil. When we put it on heat, it creates steam. You know, it starts to boil over. Emotions, you know, that can be thought of as anger or passion. You know, it can be a variety of symbolism. Everybody's going to have their own interpretation, and that interpretation can change from day to day, how you're feeling, you know. You can sit at the water's edge and just kind of let the water just sort of lap at your feet and just enjoy that feeling. But there's also a strength and a fury that can come with water, whether it's a storm, whether it's a hurricane. And so all of these different conditions come about in different ways. With weather, it's usually a sequential process of, you know, I'm not really good with the science. Symbolism is more my jam. But, you know, I think that, isn't it something about condensation and pressure in the clouds and stuff like that that creates the storm or the hurricane? And to me, a storm, the way that I would interpret that is that interpersonal journey, that experience from within that kind of causes that chaos inside, maybe brings up the past or something that we're traumatized by, something like that. And then once we get that out in the form of tears, or we start to kind of come to terms with our pain, we might see things in terms of the new growth from the storm. We might see the sun shining. We might see the rainbow. And so I kind of like to look at it in that way. And then, you know, the hurricane, to me, that's rage. I think of that as rage. That's when we get to that point where we know that we have that inside us and we try to put a cap on it and we just can't. If we know that there's an aspect like that that can affect other people through saying things that we shouldn't, and even if it's affecting ourselves, if we know those things are inside of us, you know, it's really important that we take a step back and look at it and say, okay, what can I do to not cover up those feelings, but to diffuse the situation? What can I do to make things better for me and everybody else around me? Or, you know, sometimes we do have to deal with difficult personalities who, let's face it, some people can just be nasty and mean, and they just, you know, don't know when to stop. And then when you've had enough, that's when the hurricane comes out and they're like, see, you're not as sweet as people think you are. But everybody has their tipping point. And sometimes we are faced with those personalities where we just cannot get along, or we've tried and we just, you know, it's not working. So how can we possibly look into shifting things or changing something, or seeing if we can have our situation change to distance from that person, if that is what we need to do. On and on and on. You know, the list goes on about all these things that can bring out something inside of us, and we tend to gravitate toward those who bring out the best, or at least I would hope. And so acknowledging that that's just one aspect of who we are. That doesn't make us bad people. That doesn't mean that we are not the peaceful, calm water that everybody sees us as, because we tend, as people, we tend to give what we get. And so that makes us feel like we're being fraudulent with who we are. But when we are authentic, we draw in those people who really align with us and who get us. And so moving on to the professional aspects. Now, people who are in success, when we see from the outside that they are in their successful mode, where it looks like they've got everything, they've got it all figured out, not always true. Imposter syndrome is prevalent when people have nice things because they wonder if they deserve it. And it's so important that when you reach that level of success, and I believe that it's possible for everybody, but when you reach that level of success, to reconcile it with remembering all the times that you had thought you were a failure and you weren't. You were just building yourself up to success. No success story is built overnight. It doesn't just come out as a one-try thing. Everybody who is successful, we look at them and we say, what was their secret? What did they do to make this product that just took off and now it's making billions of dollars? This person that had this one hit record that, you know, they're going to be getting royalties for that forever. I don't know if it's going to sustain them. I mean, I have no idea how that works. But sometimes a lot of these one-hit wonders go into the music business on the other side, not making music, but making it, or not making music, but going into the, you know, writing business or producing and stuff like that. And that can be lucrative, but it's never a one-time thing. It's not this person just picked up a guitar and made a song and it was a hit. It's never like that. Sometimes it's years, decades even, of trial and error. And it's important to remember where we all come from, because no journey is easy. And getting there that's only half of it. Then we got to figure out what to do when we get there. Then we feel like, just as in the case with water, we feel like we have to be one certain thing all the time. We feel like we cannot deviate from a path of success once we've found it. And that's a lot of pressure too. You know, to just feel like we have to keep up with everybody or keep up with the images that people perceive us to be and the things that people perceive to be true about us. And, you know, we're afraid of exposing ourselves to not be who we think we are, or exposing ourselves to not be who others think we are. And I think that, you know, there's a little bit of truth in all of that. Also, you know, no matter what part of success you're on, whether you're finding your way, I mean, I'm not going to tell my age here. I think that it's hard for people to tell my age because not that I look young, but I have aspects to me that are a little bit kind of, you know, a little bit more youthful, and then, you know, the braces and, you know, acne. So people look at that and they can't tell, because then I have wrinkles and features that are more mature, and gray hair, and, you know, all these other things. So it's really hard for people to tell what age I am, because they don't know if I'm really young or really old, and they don't say it like that, but they're like, I don't know if you're really young or if you're real, and then they catch themselves. I know what they're going to say. But anyway, I'd rather keep people guessing, not that I'm hiding my age or anything, just because, you know, I'd like to see what other people think of my age. It's interesting. They can never tell. So anyway, going back to that, when it comes to, you know, whatever part of your journey you're on, I'm on this journey of understanding that in my youth, I didn't have everything laid out to get to my path. I had to find it. And, you know, it's the difference of somebody that has it all figured out when they're young, or has it figured out for them, and then they get to my age and they're making big changes and they don't know what they're doing, and it's like, you know, they're starting back at square one again. And so I have this path where this is kind of my square one, where I finally have it in my control and in my path to make things happen. But there's still this sense of imposter syndrome. Am I good enough to make this happen? Am I going to be on a path where I can actually find my happiness and success and all of these things? So no matter what path you're on, we're going to have those struggles. And so I just wanted to make it clear that, you know, it's about maintaining the momentum that I have right now and trying to continue in that way, and not putting the pressure on myself to live somebody else's reality, or to think that I should have had it figured out a long time ago, because, you know, it's a learning process. And, you know, as I said, there's some people that they've had many failures before they found success, but without those failures, they may have never found success. It just doesn't happen that way. Usually success is, they don't tell you that, you know, when they show you people that have their $1 million ideas, they don't tell you those things. But that's what it comes down to, is we really have to start somewhere. And I had been on that path for so long. So no matter what side of your journey you're on, know that you deserve success. Try not to withhold that from yourself in thinking that you can't make things happen, or that you don't compare to anybody else. The trick is to walk like you do, to act like you do, you know. And I'm gonna say this too, this is another little secret I've learned on my way. If you act like you belong somewhere, nobody's gonna question it. People are just gonna accept it, and they're gonna embrace it, and they're gonna think you're important. You know, I've been out places, and because sometimes I have a certain air about me, people will think it's so weird. Even though I'm like dressed all goth or whatever, people will think that I'm like somebody important, because I come off with that confidence when I'm asking a stupid question. I'm not even joking about this. I can ask a stupid question, and people are like, are you with so-and-so? No. I'm just asking questions. Maybe, I don't know, maybe corporate and stuff like that, or, you know, maybe they're notorious for that, which, I mean, yeah, technically they are. But, you know, I just wanted to give that little word of advice. Act like you belong. Nobody's going to question it. They're going to feel like you belong, and they're going to not even think twice about your presence there. Because a lot of us, we have this idea that, do I belong here, when we're applying for a job, you know? And if we take control, if we are hesitant about going somewhere, and we feel, you know, we're giving off nervous energy because we're not comfortable there, we're gonna come off as a little bit more obvious than if we are standing, obvious in a different way, I guess, than if we're standing as if, yeah, I'm here. You know, so just something to kind of carry along with that imposter syndrome idea. And I think that can kind of, getting into that zone and embracing who you are, embracing all those various aspects of who you are, being aware of those different versions of ourselves and trying to keep them in check when we have to, you know, and kind of just reining all of that in, and knowing that it's not fake to be one version of ourselves with one person and another with somebody else, and, you know, so on and so forth. But also in our quest for success, knowing that it's okay to be who we are, that we deserve it. There is room for everybody out there to find their path and to make things happen. And then also, when we get to success, and this will be relevant for everybody at some point when you are ready to embrace that, in seeking that out, just in knowing that, you know, it's okay to be human, and you're not living this life for anybody else. You're living it for yourself. So if anybody has an opinion or an idea, you're coming as you are. You are your authentic self. That's all anybody can expect of you. And I want to go into that one more time. Don't ever underestimate the value of confidence, because, you know, as I said, when people think that you belong, they're not going to question it. and you can hold the upper hand in some way. So I guess that's it. I know I tangent. I tried not to, but that's it for now. If you're not aware, I do have some workshops where I kind of go into a lot of these aspects and, untangling whatever it is that you're trying to figure out within yourself, whether it's making those major changes or whether you just want to find time for yourself, which that in itself can be a major change because some of us just can't get it. Not without a little bit of a boost and a little bit of a guidance on, navigating a busy life or, just trying to find yourself. So that's my current workshop right now. As I said, if you're not aware of that one, it's New You. Originally, it was going to be New Year, New You, because I wanted to emphasize the idea that we can shed the past and come into our own. But I thought about it and I'm like, we can do this any time of year because a birthday can be a reason, our own or somebody else's. We can find any reason to make any change that we want. Maybe we wake up and say, you know what, now is time. It is finally time. So there's that, and I am available with that one. It's a 3-month workshop where you do get feedback from me. There's a lot of independent work that you can do on your own, and then we congregate and talk about it and go forward with it, and figure out what it is that you want to reshape, or I'm just gonna leave it at that because you get the idea. Then I have I have the self-esteem or self-care workshop, which it does lend way into self-esteem, but the idea is to get balance, get some harmony, get some time for yourself, and basically it's just a bunch of little activities and tips on how to bring your schedule down to a place where you can finally get time for yourself. Think about how many hours a day we give to somebody else. How many times have we lost sleep for somebody else? Putting off sitting down to a home-cooked meal and opting for some, quick meal replacement shake or a TV dinner because we wanted to make sure that everybody else was taken care of. It's about giving some of that time back to us and finding those ways that exist now and, letting it unfold in a way where, it doesn't feel like it's forced. It doesn't feel like we're making time for ourselves, but rather where it's flowing naturally and where eventually it'll start to just become second nature. So I have those 2 workshops at the moment. I also have scheduled, I'm not going to give the price on anything right now because sometimes I do like to put in specials and things like that, but I do have half-hour readings. We can do an hour if that works better for you, but half hour is the minimum, or even 2 hours, whatever works, but half hour is my minimum. And I think I covered everything. If you are in my group, feel free to get back to me, comments, just have a little bit of a discussion on imposter syndrome. I would like to delve a little bit more into this. And so I'm giving this one 2 weeks, and then I'll kind of shift gears into something else. Wish y'all all a wonderful day. Have a good one. I will catch up with y'all later.